Hi, welcome to Microsoft Build 2017. I'm Chris Gardy. I'm a program manager on the Microsoft Common Data Services team.
Hi there, my name is Suresh Jayabalan. I'm a program manager on the Microsoft Graph team. We will show you how you can build end-to-end solutions by leveraging broad range of productivity and business data from Microsoft Graph and Common Data Service. Microsoft Graph is a unified API for Microsoft services that includes Office 365, Azure Active Directory, and many more.
Microsoft's Common Data Service, or CDS, is a focal point for a business's data. Professional developers can write applications that interact with that data in CDS, and power users can take advantage of Power Apps, Flow, and Power BI to create apps, design workflows, and perform deep analytics over that data without writing any code. So why would a developer want to use Microsoft Graph and Microsoft CDS? Microsoft Graph gives you access to rich data from Microsoft services. Once you bring that data into CDS, you can combine it with the business's other data that the business depends on. Then you can build rich applications and workflows with easy-to-use building blocks, whether you know how to write code or not.
Let me introduce an application scenario. Many companies face problems facilitating parking and commute for their employees. Imagine an app development company is working to solve this problem. They are building a mobile app. This mobile app helps people find rides to and from work. It's important that this app fits well into how people actually work. And since this app will be deployed in many companies, that's a challenge. Contoso is one of the first customers to acquire this app and make it available to all its employees. Contoso can easily extend the data created by this app to build additional experiences. Let me start with a demo of the WorkRides mobile app built by a professional app developer. Chris will later show you how this app was extended. Dennis is an employee of Contoso who really needs to find rides, a reliable ride-sharing solution. Since Contoso has made the WorkRides app available to all its employees, Dennis acquires and launches the WorkRides app. He signs in. During the first sign-in, Dennis gives the app permission to access his data from Microsoft Graph and Common Data Service. Dennis attempts to find a ride to work tomorrow using this app. He sets up a rider profile. This profile info is populated by data from Microsoft Graph, specifically the directory and Outlook. Dennis is now recorded as a rider in CDS. Now, Dennis can see list of available drivers matched to his profile based on their work location, department, pickup location, similar schedules, and information about the people that Dennis actually works with. Thanks to Microsoft Graph, Dennis can even see one of the potential driver is out of office. Dennis picks David as a potential driver. Dennis sees David's profile. The Microsoft Graph Delta Query APIs keeps the app updated on any change to David's profile, like work location or job title, which helps the app update CDS accordingly. Dennis asks for a ride. Using Microsoft Graph API, an email is composed. Dennis sends this mail to David. Now, David's profile in CDS is updated with Dennis as a potential rider. Now, let's take a look at David's experience as a driver.
All right, so David is willing to give rides to other people because he's a generous individual and because Contoso is going to reimburse his rides. So we can see an email from Dennis here. We're going to swipe up and go into Outlook. We can look at that email and says, "May I ride with you tomorrow?" And it reminds David that the WorkRides app is where he needs to go to set up that ride. So David comes out and goes into the Carpool app. So inside of this Xamarin Carpool app, David can go and have a look at the drive requests, and he sees a request in here, clicks on it. We can see it's from Dennis, who lives 3 miles away. You can click on the Dennis's request to see the details of that request. You can see that Dennis wants to ride tomorrow. And also the map can tell him some information about what has happened to his potential ride, and that 13 minutes has been added to the ride. So he's willing to accept Dennis into his carpool. So he creates an email, and there's a template email that gets created by the application. So using Microsoft Graph, the Xamarin app sends this email and then creates a calendar entry inside of David's calendar with Dennis as an attendee. And then the ride details is saved inside of the Microsoft Common Data Service. So we've sent that message off to Dennis to tell him that the ride has been accepted. And then if we jump out to our calendar, we can see that that carpool ride has been set up with Dennis for tomorrow.
Let me show you how we built this app. One of the core features of this app is work-based authentication. To enable this, first this app needs to be registered with Azure Active Directory. The registration was easy and done in Azure Portal. Workgrades is built as a multi-tenant app, so it can be deployed in many organizations with data isolation. The Workgrades application has some required permissions added to access Microsoft Graph and CDS. This ensures the user can consent to the application to access their data. After registering the app, we enabled authentication. Adding authentication into the client application was a simple tool. We acquired the NuGet package for Azure Active Directory library and configured authentication to work with Azure Active Directory using the client ID that was generated during the application registration process in Azure Portal. As you can see, with a few lines of code, we can enable sign-in and sign-out features for this app. Once we got authentication working, the next step was to talk to Microsoft Graph. We called Microsoft Graph through the REST APIs in the sample. If you would like, you could use the client library for Microsoft Graph. Here is an example of a REST API call that we made to get list of people the signed-in users work with.
All right. Then the Xamarin app connects to the customer's Common Data Service environment to access data about employees and store ride and driver details data. From the Xamarin app, we use the CDS SDK to interact with CDS. Today, you have to create a web API to use the CDS SDK from a Xamarin app, as you can see here. In the future, we'll be working on a single-step solution so that you can access CDS data directly from the Xamarin app. The Common Data Service has a rich set of standard entities, but in addition to those, developers can create custom entities. For the Xamarin app, some custom entities were created. And we're going to go into the CDS XL add-in to have a look at some of those. So the developer can use the CDS XL add-in to have a look at the data. We can see drivers here, employees, and then the ride details, including the ride detail that we just created. We're going to also add some ride details data to represent David and Dennis having shared rides for a couple of weeks. So we're going to go over here to this example data sheet, come back to the ride details sheet, and then we're going to paste this data in here, and then we're going to publish this data into the Common Data Service. Great, so we can see that that published those 9 records. And now we'll go back and talk about the scenario. So for this power user scenario, now that this app has been deployed at Contoso, employees want to get reimbursed for driving others, and executives want to have better visibility into the data in the Common Data Service. to learn more about the effectiveness of the rideshare program. In this scenario, the HR manager is a power user who has built a Power App and a flow to facilitate reimbursement for employees, all using no code. And then he has created a Power BI dashboard on top of that data to provide data visibility for executives. If the HR manager also wanted to look at the data, he can use the Excel add-in that we just looked at. So let's have a look at some of the experiences that have been built on top of this common data service data and how Graph makes them even richer. So I'll go to the mobile device and start up Power Apps to show you the app. And while I'm doing that, I'll tell you a little bit about Power Apps. So using Power Apps, you can manage organizational data by running an app. And you can see that app and Power Apps here. We can go into the app. And once we've signed in as David, we can click on reimbursement. And then inside of this Power App, we can see a full ride history shown, as well as a nice little chart. Using this Power App, we can select one of the rides, and we can submit a request for reimbursement and to get approval. So the Power App is reading data from the Common Data Service, and then it's utilizing the Microsoft Graph to ask for that approval. Great. In the studio, the Power App is built visually using drag and drop components. You can see the action bar up the top here, where we can drag and drop controls into the Power App. And the logic in the app is defined using an Excel-like expression language, and you can see examples of that for the check and uncheck events on the checkbox over here on the right-hand side. This allows a developer or a user, a power user, to create a Power App without knowing code. They're just writing expressions in an Excel-like expression language. In addition, the onSelect event for the submit button down the bottom here will trigger the submission flow, and Suresh will show you more about how easy that is to build.
Great. Using Microsoft Flow, you can set up automated workflows between your favorite apps and services to synchronize files, get notifications, collect data, and many more. The basic building blocks needed for building flows are connectors. As you can see in this flow, the Get Manager step uses the Office 365 connector, which uses Microsoft Graph APIs to get the Employees Manager, and the Start Approval step uses Modern Approval connector to send approval emails.
Great. So once employees have generated data via the Xamarin app and gone through the reimbursement flow using Power Apps, we need to provide some visibility into the data. So why Power BI? Using Power BI, you can transform your company's data into rich visuals to focus on what really matters to you. In this case, the HR manager is responsible for the success of the ride-sharing program, and he creates a Power BI dashboard based on the Common Data Service data to understand riding patterns, common routes, and participation rates. So as you just saw, Microsoft provides us a platform for building end-to-end solutions. Professional developers can build apps that leverage productivity and business data no matter where it resides, and power users can leverage that data to create apps, flows, and dashboards. We're making this sample and the related documentation available on GitHub, and you can find this via the aka.ms/workrides link. We encourage you to take a look at the details of how the Xamarin app talks to the Common Data Service and Microsoft Graph. And you can read about how the related Power App, Flow, and Power BI dashboards were created in the documentation that we have in there. In addition, you can learn more about the Microsoft Graph and the Microsoft Common Data Service using the resources that you can see here. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.